second victim's attorney is speaking out, and a Virginia Democratic delegate introduced articles of impeachment. All the late-breaking details in a moment. Plus, brand new criticisms of Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's progressive Green New Deal. Easy for me to say. And they are not from Republicans. Even President Obama's former energy secretary is calling the plan impractical. More on the cracks within the Democratic Party later. And stick around to the end of the hour. A Duck Dynasty star is here. He's got a new book out. Has America lost touch with its core values? Phil Robertson will answer that question. But first, let's go to Richmond and correspondent Ellison Barber with all the late-breaking details in Virginia's worsening political crisis. Good evening, Ellison.
Good evening to you, Mike. Duke University tells me that they have asked Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax to step down from the Board of Visitors at Duke's Sanford School of Public Policy. This after a woman came forward claiming the now Lieutenant Governor raped her in 2000 at Duke University when they were both students. The law firm representing Miss Meredith Watson says Mr. Fairfax's attack was premeditated and aggressive, and that, quote, Miss Watson shared her account of the rape with friends in a series of emails and Facebook messages that are now in our possession. They then went on to say, quote, we have statements from former classmates corroborating that Miss Watson immediately told friends that Mr. Fairfax had raped her. In a statement, the lieutenant governor said, quote, I deny this latest unsubstantiated allegation. It is demonstrably false. I have never forced myself on anyone ever. I demand a full investigation into these unsubstantiated and false allegations. A couple of hours after those two statements, there was another one from the accuser's lawyers. They say the lieutenant governor is trying to smear their client and told reporters about a different assault, an assault they claim the lieutenant governor used to justify his alleged actions. According to the statement, in 2000, Miss Watson ran into Mr. Fairfax one time after this alleged assault occurred. Miss Watson asked Mr. Fairfax, why did you do it? And he answered, I knew that because of what happened to you last year, you'd be too afraid to say anything. Two women have accused the lieutenant governor of two different sexual assaults. Dr. Vanessa Tyson says he forced her to perform oral sex on him in a hotel room during the 2004 DNC convention in Boston. The lieutenant governor says that encounter was consensual. Countless Democrats have now called on the lieutenant governor to resign. One Virginia delegate says if the lieutenant governor fails to step down, he will introduce articles of impeachment on Monday.
I believe these women. Impeachment shall be for a high crime or misdemeanor. There's no question that violent sexual assault clearly qualifies as a high crime. I would hope that no member would stand in the way of this process getting underway. My sincere hope, is that this will not be necessary.
All of this as Fox News learns the governor told senior staff he will not resign over that racist yearbook photo, despite the calls for him to walk away. The governor also sent an internal email to government employees today apologizing for causing what he described as a distraction. Mike?
Ellison Barber leading us off in Richmond. Ellison, many thanks. So the top three Virginia Democrats are all engulfed in potentially career-ending scandals, but all of them are refusing to resign, at least for now. And joining me now, former Republican Congresswoman from Virginia, Barbara Comstock. It's great to see you.
Good evening.
Is it only a matter of time before Lieutenant Governor Fairfax is gone?
Yes, and I wanted to mention, I also served in the State House for 5 years, so this is very distressing for everybody in Richmond and for what is a very small community in the State House. We have something called the Virginia Way where we really work together. And I'd like to also point out that when these allegations first came forward, particularly about the second woman in October of 2017, this was before the election. And so that means there were people who knew about this, who ignored these things. And both of these women appear to be, I think both of them are, Democrats who a lot of Democrat activists and people knew. And she came forward, they both came forward and had no reason to harm a fellow Democrat, yet their cases were ignored. So it's very troubling. I think I am happy that other Virginia leaders have now called for him to step aside. I certainly said that before they did. But I also think this needs to be looked into. I mean, if Justin Fairfax wants people to look at this more closely, I think we should. And I think we should find out who knew about this and when they knew about it, because this is the kind of thing that if it had come out in October of 2017, the same time that Harvey Weinstein's allegations came out,
right,
this would have had an impact on the election, and Justin Fairfax would never have been elected, and our Commonwealth wouldn't be hurting like this and going through this.
Is it your sense that the second accuser, Meredith Watson, is likely to seal Justin Fairfax's fate?
Well, I think so, but it's not just these two women that I think have given credible, corroborated stories, with contemporaneous witnesses, but many Democrat activists and people are involved with helping them. Justin Fairfax doesn't seem to have many, if any, Democrats who are out there defending him, which leads me to ask, what did you know? Because it seems like they all turned on him pretty quickly. Now, these are all the same people who told Governor Northam he needed to resign last weekend,
right,
and now he's hunkering down. It looks like
what about
Justin
the governor?
Fairfax may do the same.
Congresswoman, what about the governor? Do you think he's going to be able to hang on to his office?
Well, I certainly think, as so many of the Democrats have said, they have no confidence in him. How can they believe him? And just this week there were reports saying the governor and the governor's wife were calling Justin Fairfax and his wife and Mark Herring, who also had his own blackface incident, and telling him, hang in there, hunker down. So unfortunately, it seems like they're all looking at political expediency, and it's at the expense of what are their own allies in their own. These were women who worked with their cause and helped them, and they swept that aside for political expediency, and that's really what's distressing.
Former Congressman,
as well as, these were violent crimes, and I think some of these, if these are true, the statute of limitations has not expired also. So if these are true and he wants them investigated, there could be criminal consequences as well.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Former Congresswoman Barbara Comstock, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
First, it was Republicans criticizing Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's progressive Green New Deal. But tonight we have brand new criticisms from Democrats as some clear party divisions are emerging. Correspondent Jillian Turner is following the latest. Good evening, Jillian.
Good evening to you, Mike. So Democrats on Capitol Hill are getting busy adopting the Green New Deal as the rallying cry of the 116th Congress.
Our planet is in peril, and we need to be bold.
And I think the challenge is out there, and I think the green generation is ready to politically fight for it.
The deal's just a day old, but already generating major buzz and controversy. The centerpiece of the deal is aspirational, the elimination of fossil fuel emissions. But it doesn't stop there. It's also laced with proposals to eliminate plane travel, beef, and provide universal jobs and paid vacations for all Americans. Republicans are thumbing their noses.
It's quite rich for Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to point out the fact that we need to ruin our economy and stop all air travel and stop all cars. That's obvious with this new Green Deal that has no chance of going anywhere.
You want to make it harder for people to go visit their families on Christmas? You want to make electricity prices 6, 7, 8 times what they are now, and you say that you can connect with the average guy out there? It's a real problem.
After yesterday's rollout, Democrats lined up around the block to sign on. So far, the list includes almost all of 2020's hopefuls: Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, Amy Klobuchar, and Kirsten Gillibrand. But today, some senior Democrats are following in Speaker Pelosi's lead and beginning to distance themselves. President Obama's energy secretary weighed in publicly, telling NPR the deal's impractical, and Howard Dean, former chairman of the DNC, offered a cautionary tweet. We can propose the moonshot, and we should, but we also have to engage those who are not convinced or are frightened. The message today from Dean and other seasoned Democrats to the new and enthusiastic wing of their party is crystal clear. Don't alienate American voters the party will need to win over in 2020. Dean and others recognize the Green Deal will be a tough sell for working-class voters in Rust Belt states like Pennsylvania and Ohio, and may very well send them running. So a warning from the party's elders to keep their eyes on the 2020 prize. Mike?
Jillian Turner live here in Washington. Jillian, thanks a lot.
You bet.
Democrats in Virginia are now bracing for the 2020 fallout. The deepening political crisis is threatening to turn the Democratic state back into a battleground state. Time now for tonight's Power Panel. Syndicated columnist and author Michelle Malkin, the former Ohio Senate Democratic Minority Leader Capri Cafaro, and Chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp. Great to have all of you tonight.
Great to be here.
Absolutely happy to be here.
Michelle, first of all, your reaction to the latest developments in Virginia, and how many of these top 3 officials are going to be forced out?
Well, they're going to wait it out, and I believe that this is not the time to be depending on short memories and news cycles that will rescue these people. The left has basically built its own ideological Pandora's box. And I have to say that, I think that there are a lot of us on the right who've seen so many of these tactics, the grievance card played against Republicans and conservatives who are indulging in a bit of schadenfreude now. And the thing is, even despite that, I do have to caution, as somebody who's been an investigative reporter who has dealt with false allegations for the last several years, that we have to be very careful about a bandwagon effect now and the timing of some of these accusations. It is true that some of these accusations were apparently covered up by top Democratic officials. But whenever there's political expedience involved, yes, you have to ask the tough questions, and allegations have to be subjected to corroboration.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to put on the screen a tweet from Senator Tim Kaine calling on the lieutenant governor to go. And with that, I want to ask Capri, what about the latest allegations coming out against Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax? Is he done, or should he be?
I think that he is going to be on his way out. I mean, we are seeing a mounting group of individuals on the Democratic side, from former Governor Terry McAuliffe, you just mentioned Tim Kaine. We saw a laundry list of others. And frankly, even Justin Fairfax himself is saying, bring on an investigation. Now, here's what I say about this. Number one, Democrats have to be careful because there needs to be a level of consistency. There were a lot of battle cries during the Justice Kavanaugh hearings, now Justice Kavanaugh hearings, that, if we take a step back now, we look duplicitous, and that's something politically to take into account. But I think that now where we're at this point is that this is a huge distraction from governing the state of Virginia, from Ralph Northam all the way down to the Attorney General and Justin Fairfax right in the middle. People that are sticking around right now, they are being selfish and looking at their own self-interest to try to, their political careers and their political reputation is already damaged. I say step aside, step down, let somebody govern. And if you want due process, these are actual potential crimes in the Commonwealth of Virginia or wherever the jurisdiction is. Let the judicial process give you the due process, not the court of public opinion.
Matt Schlapp, is a house cleaning coming at the top of the Virginia government structure, or should there be?
Absolutely, there should be. Absolutely, I think there will be. I think what we're seeing is a fracturing of the coalition that gave Democrats a lot of success in Virginia. Let's face it, what's happening at the national level, I don't call them the Democratic Party anymore. That's really not accurate. It's like a socialist Democratic Party. When you see the Green New Deal, when you see AOC talking about a 70% confiscatory income tax, and now you see this kind of a disgusting approach to late-term abortions and infanticide. And so let's go back to the very beginning of the Virginia scandals. Rape is disgusting. It's illegal. It should not be tolerated, of course. This all started with the governor of Virginia saying, and he's a pediatrician, he said that he knew exactly what happens in these cases. You keep the baby comfortable. After the birth of the child, you talk to the parents, and if the parents don't want to keep the child alive, to quote Donald Trump, you execute it. That is the beginning of this scandal, Mike, and that's very important because that's one of the things in a southern state like Virginia that is fracturing even a left-wing Democratic coalition.
Michelle, what about the Green New Deal? Your thoughts on that and the impact it could have on Democrats going forward?
It's impractical, it's fantastical, and it is dividing the elite of the Democrat Party from these progressive rabble-rousers, and I am enjoying popping my popcorn watching it all. There is one important and serious ideological point that I'd like to make, though, that you rarely hear, which is that these radical environmentalists who are putting forth these costly programs that are pipe dreams actually turn out to be the worst enemy of future generations of children. Not only because of the costs that these fantastical things will impose on future generations, but because most radical environmentalists are subscribers to population control policies that don't want children on the earth in the first place.
Capri, your thoughts on the Green New Deal and the presidential hopefuls who were very quick to jump on it. In fact, take a listen to Cory Booker out on the stump today.
Our planet is in peril, and we need to be bold. And when the planet has been in peril in the past, who came forward to save Earth from the scourge of Nazi totalitarian regimes? We came forward.
Capri, your thoughts?
Don't ever invoke Nazis and try to compare them to anything else.
Right.
Number one, okay?
Smart.
Rule number one, don't do that. But I think that Cory Booker and the rest that have signed on to the Green New Deal are just looking to make sure that they can compete in the progressive space in a Democratic primary. I am of the Howard Dean camp and the camp of the former Energy Secretary. As a former legislator of the state of Ohio, we were the first to do renewable portfolio standards. I supported that. We need to take some level of action, but I can also tell you that this is absolutely, it's not realistic. And if we want to have a real conversation about reducing greenhouse gases and combating climate change, let's be serious.
Matt, getting rid of commercial aviation, fixing or rebuilding every building in the country, paying those unwilling to work. Your thoughts?
My favorite thing is we're going to get rid of all fossil fuels. We're going to get rid of cars. We're going to get rid of planes. We're going to just use bicycles and get on high-speed rail. And what I love all this idea that the only part of energy we'll have in our economy is electricity. How will we generate that electricity? These are the details they might have thought about before they went to writing this piece of stupid legislation. By the way, I think it is real.
All right. Power panel. Matt, Capri, Michelle, thank you so much for being here on a Friday night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
You bet.
Fireworks on Capitol Hill today during the acting Attorney General's final days at the helm of the Justice Department.
Have you ever been asked to approve any request or action to be taken by the special counsel?
Mr. Chairman, I see that your 5 minutes is up, and so I'm here voluntarily. We have agreed to 5-minute rounds.
Chairman thought that was hilarious amid the contentious back and forth. The acting AG says he has not interfered in any way with the special counsel's Russia probe. Stick around for more on the hearing. Plus, the trade deal deadline with China is looming, and it's the day after the president's second scheduled summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. We're going to talk about it all with Illinois Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger after the break. Trump's in very good health. That's the word from the president's physician, who spent about 4 hours with the commander-in-chief for his second annual physical. Flexing their new majority muscle today, Democrats dishing out snarky comments, butting heads with the acting attorney general during a contentious hearing on Capitol Hill, centering on the special counsel investigation. Correspondent Trace Gallagher has more now on the combative back and forth. Hello, Trace.
Good evening, Mike. This was bound to be a battle because Democrats said repeatedly the only reason President Trump appointed Matt Whitaker as acting attorney general was to rein in the Robert Mueller probe. In fact, the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, Gerald Nadler, vowed that Whitaker would be their first witness. And today, right out of the gate, Whitaker was asked why, if he was critical of the Mueller probe in the past, did he not recuse himself from the investigation? Watch.
There were career DOJ officials who advised you that you should not touch that investigation. Isn't that correct?
Congressman?
Yes or no?
I consulted with career ethics officials. I consulted with my senior staff. I consulted with the Office of Legal Counsel. It was my decision to make. I decided not to recuse.
Whitaker was also asked if he shared any of Mueller's report with the president or his legal team, and if he supported the president's claim that the investigation is a sham.
I have not talked about the special counsel's investigation with senior White House officials.
Are you overseeing a witch hunt?
Congressman, as I've mentioned previously, the special counsel's investigation is an ongoing investigation, and so I think it would be inappropriate for me to...
But you wouldn't oversee a witch hunt, would you? You'd stop a witch hunt, wouldn't you?
Congressman, it would be inappropriate for me to talk about an ongoing investigation.
Perhaps the most contentious exchange came when Whitaker called time on Chairman Nadler, which caused some to laugh, others to gasp. Look.
Have you ever been asked to approve any request or action to be taken by the special counsel?
Mr. Chairman, I see that your 5 minutes is up, and so I'm here voluntarily. We have agreed to 5-minute rounds.
After the hearing, Nadler told reporters they might need to speak to Whitaker again since he didn't answer many of the committee's questions, though Whitaker's continued tenure as AG is likely less than a week. Mike.
Trace, thank you. Breaking tonight, President Trump tweeting the location for his second summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The leaders will be meeting in Hanoi, Vietnam on February 27th and 28th, which is just one day before the deadline for a trade deal with China. Issues that are both of huge importance for the president's legacy and the nation's economic and foreign policy. But with the clock ticking down, is there enough time to hammer out all the details? Let's bring in Republican Congressman from Illinois, Adam Kinzinger, who sits on the House Foreign Relations Committee. Congressman, great to see you.
Hey, good to see you.
President Trump tweeting this evening, writing, North Korea under the leadership of Kim Jong-un will become a great economic powerhouse. He may surprise some, but he won't surprise me because I've gotten to know him and fully understand how capable he is. North Korea will become a different kind of rocket, an economic one. What's your reaction to that from President Trump?
I want to be clear about something. Kim Jong-un is a very evil person. He has killed a lot of people. He keeps people in work camps. And the whole reason we're in this position is because he's trying to develop a nuclear weapons program. So I'm always uncomfortable when the president compliments him. But at the same time, I think this is going to be a good summit, I hope. One thing we have to keep in mind when the whole Iranian nuclear deal was being hammered out, I didn't like the deal, but that was all behind closed doors, and then we just saw what it looked like in the end. This process with North Korea plays out in public. So there's going to be ups and downs in this. There's going to be like high moments and low moments. I hope that on February 27th, we can get some good progress, but I think we're going to need to see some pretty certifiable progress here soon if we want to get off of a war path with North Korea.
Yeah, that summit in Hanoi is just about 2.5 weeks away. Any sense of how much they need to figure out before Trump-Kim 2.0?
Well, it's probably a lot to figure out. I know, but there's been a lot of negotiations behind the scenes. I've gotten briefed on where they're sitting on some of them. There's a lot of work being done. So it's one thing to kind of map out where we want to go from here. Here's some deliverables we can walk out with. But what I am concerned with, and I think needs to be very clear, is it's time for some deliverables. I worry that we're going to pull troops out of South Korea. I worry that we're going to declare an end to the Korean War and start giving all these things without getting something that's verifiable and certifiable. I think President Trump is doing the right thing on this path because I think the alternative is really bad and we have to do everything we can. But it is time for Kim Jong-un to give us some certifiables besides that he's just not shooting missiles around.
Michael O'Hanlon from Brookings suggests the president should get pragmatic. He should do a deal that eliminates North Korea's ability to produce more bombs as well as longer-range missiles in exchange for a partial lifting of sanctions. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff I'm uncomfortable with any kind of a deal like that because it means we're going to have to give something to a very evil man. And I think it's, again, incumbent on us to remember he's a very evil man. But in reality, there's going to be some give. And I think the president's point about, hey, the North Korean economy can be good if they come to a footing of peace instead of war, I think is possible. There's got to be some carrots in this, but it's also got to be clear that there's sticks, which is we have a lot of troops near North Korea. We have the ability to destroy North Korea's nuclear weapons, but we'd much rather see North Korea on a path to peace and prosperity, helping its people, pulling them out of work camps, than the alternative.
All right, in our final moments here, we're a week out from another funding deadline. Here we go again. What are you hearing from your friends and colleagues involved in the talks? Are we going to get a deal?
I think we are. I think it's going to end up being something where probably nobody's happy, but everybody's happy. It'll be one of those things. I think we're not going to shut down. It seems like the Democrats are giving a little bit from what I'm hearing. We're probably going to have to give a little bit, and ultimately we're not going to shut the government down because we shouldn't. We need to build some wall. We need to get border security. I think we're on the path. But look, I'm an optimist, and about 87% of the time my optimism's wrong, so who knows?
Well, hopefully you're right this time. Congressman Adam Kinzinger from the great state of Illinois, thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
You bet. See ya.
Amazon CEO claims he was being extorted and blackmailed by the National Enquirer, so Jeff Bezos is fighting back. We've got the latest on this tawdry tabloid tale and we'll discuss the legal ramifications of this case. Then a little bit later, Fox News at Night meets Duck Dynasty when Phil Robertson and his beard stop by. Keep it here. Mail him over explicit photos of him sent to his mistress, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Correspondent Leland Vittert has the story tonight. Good evening, Leland.
Good evening, Mike. And as you noted, beyond the accusations by Bezos, American media, which owns the National Enquirer, now faces questions about